Welcome, everyone, back to the True Blue Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Succardi. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Podcast True Blue. Thanks for everyone for joining me for the second episode. Sorry it took so damn long. I was waiting for it to get approved because, when you do these podcasts, you have to submit it. And then once it's approved, and it's everywhere, Apple, Google, Spotify, etc. But I ran into some issues with getting approved because the image I was using was an image I didn't own. It was of Elvin Jones, a jazz drummer. So they were telling me that that's why. It took forever for them to tell me. So I changed the image. It's a picture of my grandmother and I. Great picture. And just got a couple things together, and then with the holidays and all that bullshit, here we are, January 5th. Happy to be here. Thanks again for joining me. Again, this is the True Blue Podcast. The idea behind this podcast is self-expression and self-care. Just the things that I do to help me stay me. So in today's episode, I'm actually going to read from a poetry book I wrote 10 years ago. 10 motherfucking years ago. The book is called Cities of New York, and I went through it here before the pod, and I checked off a couple ones that I'm going to read to you. They're very short, so they're all haiku, or modern haiku, excuse me. So they don't go by the 5-7-5 syllable rule, but they are short. And they do kind of capture a moment in time, something to kind of take with you. So that's a little bit background on the poetry book. And then I'm going to give you a self-care tip of the week. I may do this every episode, not sure, but fuck it. It's part of this episode. And then, after that, I'm going to do 10 push-ups, which I know is great for a podcast. You get to hear me do 10 push-ups. But the idea behind that is that's part of my self-care. I haven't done it today. It's something I'm trying to do on a daily basis, just 10 push-ups. So I'll get into that. And then I'm actually going to, I'm definitely going to do this each episode where I'm going to give you a song, I guess, of the week, of the episode, whatever. And actually, the song I'm going to share with you is off of my new Mexico Volume 8 mix that I've been working on for a while, and I decided to just sort of put out. So I'm going to pick a song off there and talk about it. All right, so getting into the meat and potatoes of the podcast. Again, I'm talking about my poetry book. I have a friend who used to do poetry books in the early to mid 2000s, very DIY, but great, very inspiring. So it inspired me to do my own. Very, very basic. I got probably 100 of these damn things printed, and then I handed them out to friends. I actually included some stickers. I had a friend read some of my poems and draw up some stickers to kind of, some stickers based on the poems. So I have some more of a visual. And I included a mix CD, one of my New Mexicos. I think it was Volume 6, to be honest with you, Volume 6 or 7 that I included within this poetry book. It's been 10 fucking years and time flies. So I'm definitely going to try to do another one this year. So here we are in January, so hopefully by the end of the year I'll have another poetry book out. I have a bunch of poems, I do. I just have to get my shit together. Plain and motherfucking simple. So I'm going to go through my poetry book called Cities of New York. Came out in 2010. I called it Cities of New York because at the time I felt very connected to New York City. I felt very estranged from it at times too. Damn fucking phone buzzed. Let me turn off my fucking sound. There we go. Sorry about that. I felt very estranged from it because living here in New Mexico, it's just such a different city than New York. So I had this kind of romance with New York, and I included it in my poetry book. And the idea kind of was there's so many cities around the United States that kind of emulate New York in some way. You'll go to these cities and you'll see New York pizza or New York this or that. And it just kind of really got me thinking on how I grew up by a city that was, you know, the biggest in the country and just such a. So what you just heard there was my fucking Bluetooth speaker turning off. So sorry about all the background noise. But yeah, just talking about cities of New York was just one of the things that each sort of poem wasn't necessarily about New York, but it was kind of a city. It was just sort of like my idea behind it. You know, all this particular collection. So that's kind of the gist with it here. So here goes. I'm going to just kind of read through some of these, give you a little background. Just, yeah. So let's get started. So I got these printed, and the guy fucked up. I have 100. I had probably like 10 of them that fucked up, and they all printed all funky, like in the wrong order. So this was one of them. So it's not going to be in the actual order that I presented them in. But let's see here. Okay, the first one here. Here goes. Sitting by the door, a cool breeze. Those coming, those going. So I wrote this. I was at this place here in town, sitting by the fucking front door, waiting for my order to be ready. And I don't know, I just sort of thought about how, like, you know, I could feel the cool breeze of people coming and going out of the sandwich shop. And it just, you know, kind of stuck with me. And it was one of those things that at the moment I just took out my phone and just, you know, wrote a quick poem. Very haiku in the sense of it brings you into where I was, sitting by the door, a cool breeze, those coming, those going. Pretty cool. Kind of dig it. Very, very simplistic. All right, here's the next one here. Snowfall pounding down, a bald spot where she once parked her car. So this goes back to New Jersey. It goes back to the amount of snow that we would get. And it also goes back to how my mom, who worked for the post office, a lot of times would have to still go to work. And I would wake up, because my mom, so she would go to work really early. She'd go to work at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So when it's time for me to get up to go to work myself, I remember seeing a bald spot where my mom's car was. And kind of feeling a little sad, you know. Wish my mom could have stayed home. You know, wish she could just enjoy life and stuff. So it was one of those kind of things that I just kind of, you know, noticed and then, you know, turned into this poem. Snowfall pounding down, a bald spot where she once parked her car. Really cool. I love my mom. All right, here's the next one. Small talk and exit wounds. Endings are just slow beginnings. So I love this one because it has to do with sort of like relationships and how they can change, you know, with just becoming small talk. And then the whole exit wounds. I love that idea because, you know, when you leave something or someone or they leave you, it feels like you know, you kind of have that lull that can happen over time. Sometimes it takes, you know, a couple. Sometimes it just takes a long time to move on from things is really what I'm trying to say. So just putting small talk and exit wounds together really just captured this for me. And then the last line, endings are just slow beginnings. Just trying to keep it positive. Even though something is ending and painful, really what it is, if you really look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's a slow beginning into something new. So I really dug this. This may have been like the last poem I chose for this book, but I couldn't tell you because of how the printer fucked up. But love that one. Small talk and exit wounds. Endings are just slow beginnings. All right. This one I wrote on a bus. I actually took a Greyhound bus up to Seattle, which I don't recommend. People who have to take the Greyhound usually are people who cannot fly or people, people who are up to no good. I don't know. Not everybody, but there were a lot of shady characters on the bus. And while I was on the bus, I think we were driving through like Idaho or some shit. So I wrote this. Headlights drive by, taillights drive away, going somewhere. Similar to my first poem in the sense of it's sort of coming and going, it's noticing something, but it's also, it leaves a lot to kind of ponder, you know, just people coming and going. They have no clue, you know, that I'm in a bus writing a poem about their car, driving by the bus I was on. But just one of those things that really just made me think. All right. Here's my next one. My dog covers his ears. Seconds later, I hear the sound. Let me change this because I have a female dog. I wrote this when I didn't have a dog. My dog covers her ears. Seconds later, I hear the sound. So I wrote this because I've always noticed, with like thunder, fireworks, it seems like dogs are so damn sensitive. I mean, of course, there's a dog whistle, but they always seem to have that sense. I mean, of course, there's fucking dogs that people have for like, if they're like seizure, they actually have dogs. Those like, what am I thinking? Those like medical dogs that you see people bring around and shit. And I know that this one guy at my gym had to bring his around because he would get seizures, and the dog could smell it. Believe it or not, before the seizure was going to take place, the dog could smell it, and was able to alert him in some way so he would be all right, or be able to kind of take care of it. And it was just one of those things that I wanted to write about. So just one of those things that I wanted to write about, where dogs have that other kind of connection, that isn't human, but they can hear and feel things. So that's where I got this. My dog covers her ears. Seconds later, I hear the sound. All right, this next one here. Wild vessel, swaying through the Atlantic, almost home. This was one of the ones I just imagined in my head. I imagined this ship going through really rough waters, trying to get home. I like the idea, or the words I chose, wild vessel, swaying through the Atlantic, almost home. That's kind of similar to, I kind of drew from, obviously being from New Jersey, the Atlantic Ocean, almost home, kind of a yearning to be home. Kind of a neat one. All right, let me see here. I'll pick a couple more. All right, here's one here. City sidewalk, clearing every pigeon, my 2 feet. This one just made me think about being in fucking New York City and how there's a billion pigeons, and I hate pigeons. They're a little too familiar and dirty. I got nothing against them. I'm not out to get them, but they're just annoying as shit, and I'm just really not a bird person. I don't know if I've ever done this. Maybe I did. I don't know if I chase pigeon or try to clear them off a sidewalk, but I've seen it happen, and it happens a lot in New York City. So that's why I came up with this one. City sidewalk, clearing every pigeon, my 2 feet. All right. Let's see here. I'll read 2 more. Let's do 2 more. All right, here goes. Today by the sea, I found nothing to read. Today by the sea. This one, I envision myself on a beach. I envision me just looking out into the ocean, not needing a book, not needing a phone, not needing anything. So I didn't find anything to read except just being by the sea. So that's kind of where I came with this one. And I'm a sucker for repeating lines, I think. It really drives the point home. So with this one, today by the sea, I found nothing to read. Today by the sea. Just sort of simple. Kind of like a sandwich. It starts with the bread, the meat, and then the bread again. All right, last one here. Marijuana tongue, New York City. Look for my name on the guest list. George Washington Bridge. So this one is directly to New York City. I used to always take the George Washington Bridge over to New York. When you're living in Jersey and you get to drive through New York and you have a successful trip where you get across the bridge, you get to wherever you're fucking going, you get a good parking spot, you get, back home through whatever, and it just feels good. And then you're like, damn, I just drove to New York City. That was awesome. And it's great because you can just access it so much easier once you have that little bit of confidence on how to actually get there and make it happen. And this one, I'm pretty sure this was when I visited and I drove across New York and I was smoking some weed in my car. And I just thought about it. Just how I enter New York through the George Washington Bridge. It's almost like the bridge, you have to obviously pay to cross it. So you are paying money. You're not on a guest list, but it's kind of that same idea though, in the sense of you're like, hey, look for my name on that list. George Washington Bridge. I really like this one. It really speaks to my creative side. It speaks to a little bit of just drawing from kind of like a certain image. Usually you hear cocaine tongue. I've said marijuana tongue. I smoking weed. I'm not doing coke. I'm definitely not doing coke crossing the George Washington Bridge. That's for sure. So yeah, this one is very New York. I believe this was one of the first ones I had in this, so it went really well with the title as far as introducing the New York theme here. So again, marijuana tongue, New York City. Look for my name on the guest list, George Washington Bridge. So that's it. I have maybe like 20 more poems in this book, but those are the ones I just wanted to share with you guys. I hope reading those helped. I hope I didn't confuse you by reading them twice. I just wanted to kind of do a recap of it. But yeah, so that's it. Cities of New York. I'll probably post some of these poems on my Instagram, which again is podcast True Blue, and also on Twitter. I'll probably post them there. So yeah, just to share with y'all. And then I definitely want to do more poetry. You know, I just get so unmotivated, so damn fucking lazy. But with this podcast, I'm hoping that will change. All right, here goes my self-care tip of the week. So for those of you who have AirPods or even just headphones, my tip is you can have those on and talk to yourself out loud without anyone looking at you too weird. Now, I typically will listen to music or sometimes I talk on the phone, but once in a while, I find myself not doing either but having the AirPods in my ear or headphones. And it really helps me to just sort of talk out loud to myself. You know, it helps me work things out, helps me just really like understand things more. I've always done that. I mean, I can talk to myself, without saying the actual words, but something about speaking them really helps. So this is a great tip because it'll allow you to kind of speak your piece, say what you got to say without having anyone look at you or think that you're actually talking to them. So a little bit of a fun thing I wanted to kind of share. Something that I actually noticed, and I talked to with a friend about this, that you can have your AirPods in and motherfuckers will leave you alone. All right, so I'm going to do 10 push-ups. I'm going to try to take my headphones off and then do them, and then I'll be back. The idea behind this is that you just got to do something a little each day. A little bit each day that's, physical. Even if it's one fucking push-up. I know that sounds insane, but the idea is doing it each day. Because you do one push-up each day, before you know you're doing 2, you're doing 4, you're doing 7. And then from there, it becomes, something that you're able to work towards, becomes a habit. So I'm going to go ahead, take off my headphones right now, do some push-ups, and I'll be back to finish up. Thanks so much. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, fuck yeah. All right. Sorry about the rustling here of me taking off my headphones and doing damn push-ups on a podcast. Again, I know that's probably pretty fucking weird, but it really helps me out. It really does. So try to do something a little each day. Just a little. You don't have to make it a big deal and do 20 minutes of something, 30 minutes. You don't have to go crazy. Just take it a little at a time. And really, I'm fucking telling myself this. I'm sharing with everyone here that's listening, but it's also like a mantra I'm trying to tell myself. So thanks for letting me do fucking push-ups on the podcast. I probably won't do that every time or probably ever again, but it really helped. All right, so to finish off the podcast, I'm going to give you a song of the week. This I will do every time. Love motherfucking music. It's part of my life, part of my soul. So I'm going to share this song with you. So the song is called Linda Movement by a band called Father's Children. So this is a band that I actually found through another band who posted a playlist I found out through this band Krungbin, they posted a playlist of all their favorite songs off this particular label. And I just listened to the whole playlist. A lot of great songs on there. Honestly, a lot of great songs. And this was one of them. So again, the song is Linda Movement by Father's Children. Song is it's under 3 minutes. Very soulful jam. Great lyrics that repeat. The lyric is, I think I will love you all my life. Great message. Makes me think of a few things, honestly. The song is called Linda Movement. I had an Aunt Linda who I fucking loved. Such a beautiful soul. So there's a connection right there. And then just what it's saying. I mean, it has such a great intro. It has kind of like a funk kind of thing going on. It has some hand drums going. And then it kicks in pretty much to the, I think I will love you all my life. And I think that's just such a beautiful thing. You know, it doesn't have to be a person. It could be an object, a place, anything. Right now I feel that way towards my dog and towards God. So those are the things that I'm connecting it with. But just such a great fucking song. I love hearing new music, even if it's new old music. And I love being willing to listen to other playlists, things like that, to hear new music. I find I get very kind of caught up in my own shit where I listen to only the things I want to hear, nothing new, all these, albums and records and shit, which is great. But I just love music so much that I love taking the time out, listening to something new. So I'm going to share this song. It's actually on New Mexico Volume 8 that I'm going to share with y'all. I did this mix more like a playlist, but I tried to make it like a mix in the sense of I ordered the songs in a specific way, so you don't have to hit shuffle. You can play it from start to finish, and it should sort of play a certain way. But if you were to hit shuffle, just play it like a playlist, that's all good too. So again, I just want to share this song of the week with you. So that's it. That's it for session 2 here of the True Blue podcast. Thanks again for sticking with me. Let me kind of fumble through this episode. And I look forward to connecting with y'all and, just doing more of the podcast. So thanks again, everyone. God bless and have a peaceful week.